Hi, and welcome to Parashat Bechukotai, the parasha of blessings and curses. On face value, it's the most difficult parasha I find to read because whilst the blessings are wonderful, we all want blessings, the curses are so harsh that it makes one, God forbid, feel that God is a vindictive God to incur such punishment. And in order to understand this a bit better, may I suggest the following mashal, this following example. Let me ask you a question. Do you feel that electricity is a benefit to society or not? Well, the arguments for electricity is that we can have light at night and we can read and we can do things, we can do activities, we can be much more productive than the old days when the sun went down, there was hardly any light and we had to just retire. Electricity powers all our convenient applications, for example, dishwashers, washing machine, fridges, ovens, all the things that make life convenient. And so would we want to live without electricity? No, we wouldn't. But is electricity good or bad? Well, if you stick your hand into the plug, into the socket, you'll get an electric shock. Is that good or bad? The electricity in itself is not good or bad, it's neutral. It's how we deal with it that has the effect of either being good or bad. And so it is with God's laws. The punishment, so to speak, are just consequences of us misusing the powers that God has given in our fingertips. And again, it's like the mashal of working in a nuclear power station. You have to spend a lot of time on training how to deal with the significant health hazards to make sure that you can survive in such an environment. And God gives us the keys to our survival amongst the incredible energy that He's bestowed in our fingertips. And the key method of survival is to follow His guidelines. When you get a machine, if you buy a new computer, you wanna look into the manual to understand how to use it. The manual of how to use our lives in this world is the Torah. Rather than being a vindictive punishment, the curses are basically a warning of the consequences of our actions. Nothing is more important to God than our free will, and His pre-knowledge of what we're going to do does not affect our ability to exercise that free will. And He never plays with that ability. And so ultimately, it's we who determine whether we get the blessing or the curse. And the way the Alshech puts it is that the default is that we will always get the blessings. That's the default. And if we go wrong in our behavior, then it's not so much that the curses will come, but we put a block on receiving those blessings, and the consequence of that block is the lack of light that follows through because of our actions results in those negative curses coming to reality. So let's go to the blessings, the beautiful blessings. And the question the Alshech asks is this. We thought that this world is our place to earn the merit, and the rewards will be in the world to come. If that's the case, then why are we giving blessings here? And I think the best way to understand that is that if you land a great job, let's say it gives you $100,000 a year, then that is the main income that you'll get from your work, from your efforts. But with that comes an expense ability. You have to be able to charge to the expense account things that you're going to need in order to perform your daily service. The expenses given to you is not why you do it. It's just a byproduct of you landing that job. And so the blessings here are really the byproduct of the bonuses, if you like, that God bestows upon us in this world, even though the main benefit of the reward is in the world to come. And God says that if you walk in my statutes, even those that you don't understand, the chukim, and if you observe my commandments because I commanded you to do them, without any expecting any reward, then I will give you a free bonus. And that will be that your rains will come at the desired time. Venateti, and I will give you, what the main benefits that I will give you is peace and redemption and victory over your enemies. And the Alshech says that there are two types of rains. The normal rain, which comes from the evaporation of the ocean and falls as we understand it, that kind of rain may fall in the time or the place that's not ideal for us. That there's another type of rain, the rains that comes from the galaxies, from the heavens. This heavenly rain will not return to the heavens until after it's definitely watered the earth and fertilized it and made it grow. Because this rain comes from the world of angels, where peace and serenity is the consequence. Peace and serenity from all the negative forces that are in existence in the world. And when we talk about the blessings, there's a very beautiful idea in Ruth Rabbah, where she said she ate and she was satisfied, she was satiated, and even left some over. And the rabbis say that this is a blessing of food that extends even into her intestines, that the ability to internalize the nutrients of the food is part of the blessing. And the Torah talks about the land of Israel having an exceptionally high harvest. And it's very interesting that you look at the statistics today and you can see that for example, the amount of milk that any cow in Israel produces is way in excess of the amount of milk per cow that we see performed in other parts of the world. And in spite of this, the Torah says that promises that any Torah-observant Jews will be able to dwell securely in his land. He'll be able to lie down with no one will frighten him. He will easily pursue his enemies and put them to flight. It's very interesting. The Alshech suggested something that I was very surprised at. He said that total world peace, something we all want, will happen when only Israel exists. In other words, when mankind converts to Judaism. I think this is probably a prediction of the Mashiach times. But he says that in the absence of such a situation, and in order to prevent animals from populating the world surface, God allows other nations to exist. Quite amazing. And Hashem's protection, it happens in various different stages. First, the wild animals will not invade the protected areas in Israel. Secondly, your land will not be invaded by the enemies. Their swords will not cross your land. Thirdly, the enemies will fall by confusion, i.e. friendly fire. They will kill each other in the confusion. The fourth thing is that whilst at the beginning you'll need a large number of people to pursue your enemies, as the time progresses, you'll need fewer and fewer of your own men to pursue the same number of people. And fifthly, as soon as you approach them, they will die by the sword. And sixthly, the enemy will actually end up killing each other and you will just become a spectator, something which we see in modern times quite miraculously. And it says, the Alshech says, don't worry about a population explosion. Don't worry that there won't be enough food with all this abundance, because there'll be so much grain left over from the previous harvest that you'd have to make room for the new harvest to come into your barns. And a very interesting idea here, the Alshech says, is that the expression of this blessing is that we will survive Hashem's presence amongst our nations. If you remember at Mount Sinai, our close proximity to Hashem in receiving the first two commandments meant that we actually died and had to be revived. But in the Eretz Israel, the land of Israel, the Holy Land of Israel, that closeness with God will be very natural. Israel's spirituality will not look out of place even in the earth. And the prediction is that I will be your God and you will be my people. this will be considered the most natural state of being possible. And now let's go to the curses. And it says, but if you do not listen to me, and then it enumerates all these curses. And the Alshech puts them into 7 categories. The interesting thing for me in this listing of the 7 categories is that this is a precise understanding of how the Satan, the evil urge, will work. They say that if you know your enemy, you've got a better chance of overcoming it. So this is basically how the Satan works. The first stage of rebellion is that you will say to yourself, oh, I'm not going to listen to that teacher. I'll just miss that class. There's just one class. It's not going to be so big. Then if you do that, then the second level of rebellion is that you'll omit to do a positive mitzvah, especially ones that need effort. The third area of rebellion is that you'll stop performing the mitzvot that lack rationale. Those are the chokim, the ones that we don't have an understanding for. And the fourth level is that you will abhor even the mishpatim, the social laws. The fifth level is that you will stop even observing even the negative commandments. And the sixth level is that you'll come to a point in your life where you will disobey God's commandments specifically because it's God's commandments and nothing to do with your desire to do otherwise. This is a case of clear rebellion against God. And God says He'll respond in like ways. So in the case where we fail to listen to God's Torah in the lesson, He says that we will be inflicted with confusion, that we will not be able to study even when we wanted to study. Secondly, if we fail to perform the mitzvot, even those that we're able to do, He will give us disabling diseases which impair our ability to perform the mitzvot that we do want to do. Thirdly, if we despise the chokim, the laws which don't have any rationale to them, that is, we say that we have a lack of enlightenment with regards to these laws, then He will similarly pursue our eyes, smite our eyes, not to be able to see, because the eyes are the seats of our enlightenment. The fourth level is if we abhor His social laws, He will inflict on us general despondency. The fifth level is we refuse to perform social laws, then we will attract futility. For example, we'll waste our time saving a cargo that our enemies will eventually consume. The sixth level is if we stop performing the negative commandments, our enemies will invade us and we will become victims to them. The seventh level is the ultimate stage, is willful defilements, demoralized. We will get the punishment of demoralization, where God says that you're going to war against me, the invisible God, and you feel and you flee from what you cannot see, then I will send to you insignificant creatures that you cannot see that will torment you. Like Titus had a fly come into his nostril and killed him. So the whole point of these afflictions is that the point of the afflictions is to create awareness and awakeness and teshuvah. And it's aligned to, for example, a medical doctor diagnosing you and then subscribing a medicine. Sometimes that medicine is not very nice and it has some side effects, but by taking the medicine, you will eventually get better. And the real danger here is that even when we have all these afflictions affecting us, that we would say, oh, it's just nature, it's just chance that these things have happened to me. And God says, if you treat my afflictions as nature, then if you deal with me casually, and the word used is carry, if you deal with me casually, then I will deal with you casually. And this special relationship that we have will feel invisible. So there we have it, a really difficult parasha to digest. And of course, the sages say the curses are actually blessings in disguise. And And so I want to leave you with this blessing that whenever things go wrong in our lives, that we should have the foresight to try to understand what it is that we did that created the momentum for this negative issue to enter our lives. And that by reflecting on it and doing our teshuvah and recognizing that this is from God for our benefit, that we'll do to the teshuvah, take the medicine, and then remove ourselves from that situation. And recognize that, as my mentor Yoel Tujman puts it, if you get a package that in it has a beautiful gold watch, but it's wrapped in a very poorly, in wrapping that looks really dirty and disgusting, then don't reject the package. Just unwrap the ugly wrapping and at least take advantage of the gold watch inside. So wishing you Shabbat Shalom, and may you have a blessed, wonderful, illuminated Lag BaOmer celebration. See you next week. God bless.